Hi. I know you're wondering what on earth Warhammer 40K has to do with the Bible, but I'm here to tell you that 40K pulls a lot from biblical truth. Let's get right into it, I guess. First, the corruption of sin. The 40K fans out there are already familiar with this, but for those of you who haven't read every last 40K book cover to cover, the warp is the dimension that most factions in the universe use to travel great distances in real space without it taking light years. The warp is not a friendly place. It is home to malign entities called the Chaos Gods. They and their minions try to corrupt the minds and bodies of humanity and the other races in the galaxy. They often use subtle manipulation to slowly get people to let down their guard and let a little corruption in. It never ends there, though. They always come back and offer a little more and a little more. Before you know it, you are totally corrupt and serving a chaos lord. Yeah, the best example of this is Fulgrim, the Primarch of the Third Legion, known as the Emperor's Children. He started out as a pure soul, always seeking to please his father and striving for perfection in everything he and his sons did. He was tempted by the chaos god Slanesh that the Emperor was not perfect, but that Slanesh could offer a way to perfection. Fulgrim was enticed slowly to give in to chaos a little more. If only he does one more thing, then he will be perfect. Instead, his ship, the Pride of the Emperor, descended into nothing more than a charnel house, and Fulgrim's once perfect appearance was marred and corrupted. There was one point where Fulgrim was given a chance to turn back. He saw what he had become, but the corruption was too strong, and he became trapped in a body he could not control. The devil and sin work in much the same way. They entice you saying that the next thing will satisfy. If only you take your sin one step further, you will finally have what you desire. When you give in, you feel good for a while, but it passes and leaves only emptiness and regret. Those who give in to sin always start out with just pushing the boundaries, and then they wake up one day and do not recognize themselves. There is not hope for Fulgrim, but if you find yourself in this position, cry out to God for forgiveness and salvation, and he will rescue you. Second, how atheism proves false. In 40K, or rather in 30K, while the Emperor still walked among his people, he was an atheist, and as part of his campaign to reunite humanity under his banner, he sought to wipe out all religions so that mankind could live in the light of science. By the time of the Horus heresy, there was a cult that portrayed him as a god, and when he was instated on the golden throne after Horus's defeat, that cult became the official enforced religion of the Imperium. The society that he led toward the enlightened view that there are no gods ended up making him a god. The analogy to our current age is strong. A large segment of the West believes it has outgrown the need for God, that all they need is science and the natural world. However, all they have done is created new gods of human intellect and nature. Well, technically, man has been worshiping himself and nature for a long time, but bear with me, they will proudly tell you that they are enlightened atheists, that they have evolved beyond the need for a God construct. They look down on us who believe in God as weak-minded and stuck in the past. This is unfortunately a lie. They are so eager to explain away God and why he exists that they end up creating endless new ones, the newest of which is my current feelings. Just like the Emperor, all such attempts are futile because the truth always reasserts itself. Third, the power and responsibility of symbols. In the Warhammer universe, every faction makes great use of symbols and sigils. The Imperium uses symbols such as the Aquila Space Marines or depictions of the Emperor, while the forces of chaos use symbols such as the eight-pointed star and bodily desecration as theirs. Some of these symbols denote loyalty, some show devotion, and others hold power in and of themselves. Now, I'm not saying that there are any symbols in the real world that create power in themselves or protect from malicious forces, but symbols are important. In Christianity, we have many symbols, including the cross, the Chi-Rho, the ichthus, the cross of Jerusalem, and many others. It is important that we know and understand what these symbols mean, and if we decide to wear them, we need to act accordingly. We ourselves are symbols to the world of what it means to be Christians, so we must comport ourselves in a manner that brings honor to the name of Christ, lest we break the third commandment. It is also important to note what symbols we see out in the world and what they mean. As Christians, we should not show fealty to or camaraderie with symbols that represent sin or go against God. Fourth, beware of prosperity and fatal ease. Based on the title of this point, most Warhammer fans already know what I'm going to say, but the best example of fatal ease in 40K is the Aeldari. The once great elves had an empire that spanned the entire galaxy. They became so advanced that their population didn't really have to work, and their main rivals, the Necrons, had gone into hibernation. With no work to do, they began to focus all of their time on their own enjoyment and satisfaction. This self-focused lifestyle took them into deeper and deeper depravity. So great was their perversion and vileness that it spawned the chaos god Slaanesh, who I talked about earlier. Slaanesh is the god of excess, and that dark prince consumed the souls of all the Eldari who could not escape him. By the 41st millennium, the elves are a shattered people in exile. Their empire is in ruins, and the people are going extinct. This is a chilling tale that we can learn from while it is quite extreme and dark. It is essentially the same trap that the Israelites fell into in the book of Judges and throughout the reign of the Davidic kings. It is easy to serve God when times are hard, but when we have a little success or the trials of life go away, we let our guard down. In that moment, the devil strikes, we sin, and we fall. Learn from the Eldari and the Israelites to be on guard against the devil's schemes at all times, but especially when times are good. Fifth, the light of Christ shines in the darkness. I want to end on a positive note. So let's talk about the Astronomicon, the device that the Emperor uses to shine his light through the warp and guide the ships of the Imperium on safe paths. The storms of the warp are ever-changing and threaten to tear ships apart and devour the crew. As long as the ship's navigator keeps their eye on the Astronomicon's light, they can find safe routes through the tumult. I think the comparison is quite fitting to the Apostle Peter stepping out of the boat into the stormy waves. As long as we keep our eyes fixed on Christ and don't look aside to the howling wind and the tall waves, he will guide us safely home. Now, I know most of you aren't reading Warhammer to get the biblical lessons from it. I'm not either. But I think it is important to keep an eye out for them and maybe acknowledge that the truths that God has given us in his word, that 40K then picks up and incorporates, are part of what make it good. I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to leave a comment and tell me if you agree, disagree, or have one that I missed. See you in the next one.